Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the To-Do List. I'm your host, Eric Fisher, and this is the show where I talk to the people behind the productivity. This week, I'm excited to share with you a conversation that I had with Rob Dionne of Open Sky Fitness. And in this conversation, we talk, yes, obviously, about fitness, but we also talk about the productivity aspects of that and tie some of the productivity tips and tricks and tools that you've heard talked about on this podcast into using them for your fitness, as well as touching on some of the major psychological shifts when it comes to fitness and business and productivity that you may not even be aware you need to deal with. So even if you're in really good health, I think you're going to get a lot out of this episode. This week, it is my privilege to welcome to the show Rob Dionne of the Open Sky Fitness podcast. Rob, welcome to the show.
Eric, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to chat with you, man.
Yeah, so we had a fun pre-chat about podcaster headaches before we started. We won't go into that, but just so you know, man, we podcasters get a lot of pitches. So
that's right.
There you go.
Yeah, we field a lot of those pitches, and it is brutal sometimes.
Yeah. So I want to start by maybe having you give a little bit of your backstory, because I know that a lot of people are going to identify with that backstory, especially with the fact that they probably have felt healthier in the past than they do now.
That's the thing. I think that a lot of us, we were healthy. I think most of us considered ourselves as teenagers as healthy. Either that or we couldn't care less about being healthy at that age.
Right. And we didn't know what we had.
Exactly. We didn't know what we had. And then as the years goes by, the decades go by, we look back and we go, oh man, if I could only be like that, if I could only have kept that body, I'd be so happy right now. And I was kind of that guy. I was very athletic as a kid growing up. My mom and my dad always had me playing sports. Eventually I went away to college, and I went away to college for acting. So I went for art, and I went to an art school, which meant there were no sports. There was some intramural sports, but soccer was basically the only thing, and I wasn't into that. So I stopped playing sports, and I started working out a little bit, but I couldn't keep that consistency throughout my entire 20s. And in fact, it got worse and worse and worse, which is what happens to most people, is it stops being a priority, right? So either eating healthy or working out stops being a priority. In fact, when I was in my 20s and, as a kid growing up, I didn't know what eating healthy meant. I didn't even, I used to show up in Queens. I tell this story quite a bit. I used to show up in Queens when I lived there with one of my best friends, and we would work out underneath the Queensboro Bridge. There was a track there, and I would meet him there, and we would go for a jog around the track, and we'd be talking, and I'd be burping the whole time. He's like, dude, why are you burping so much? I was like, well, I stopped on the way here. I got a couple of chili dogs. I was hungry, and I didn't want to run without having some fuel. That was the way that I looked at being healthy, was like, as long as I'm doing some physical activity, I can eat whatever I want. And that, as you get older, you realize that doesn't necessarily work anymore. So I ended up at 30 years old, kind of jumping ahead, 30 years old, just got married. My wife and I are on our honeymoon. I'm standing at a waterfall, looking at this beautiful waterfall, and I'm in my bathing suit, and my wife just goes, "Hey, Rob." And then I turn, and she snaps a picture of me next to this waterfall. And if you go on my website, you'll see that picture, right?
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah. And that was before actually digital. So we had to develop that thing. So once we got that picture, I was mortified at what I look like, because I thought I looked like that kid, at 20 years old, who had really minimal body fat and was physically fit. I worked out at 30 years old. I was still hitting the gym here and there. I had just become a personal trainer, but when I saw myself kind of caught off guard, 30 pounds heavier than I'd ever been in my life, I realized I'm not doing this right, and I need to change something. And so that was kind of what started the journey for me. And look, we're 11 years later, right? I'm 41 now, and my diet comparatively to what I was doing in my early 30s in order to learn what to eat is significantly different. So I went through all the phases of cleanses and detoxes and vegetarian, vegan. I tried everything before being like, this is stupid. I need to figure out, I need to eat what works for me and then just stick to that. And that's kind of like what we teach now with our clients, with the people that we interview or bring on our show. It's all about what works best for people. But the reality of it is that it has to be a lifestyle that you choose for yourself, that you execute on. And that's actually the thing that I think we should dive into, because I think a lot of people get hung up on how did he do it? What was the diet? Let me do that one thing and I'll get down to the body weight that, that I want to be. And then I'll go back to being able to be me. And that's the problem with the way that I think most of the fitness world works, is that they're setting everybody up for this ultimate failure, which is the yo-yo diet. We get down to X weight, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever it is that you want to lose. And then you think, okay, I'm done with that.
It's like, I'm going to detox. I'll be detoxed and then I can do whatever I want to again moving forward,
right.
Which is just not the case.
Right. Which I love when people do that. They somehow they're like, I'm not, especially. And this is what we were discussing for a moment during, before we hit record, is that, things like New Year's resolutions, my birthday, whatever it is, people
right.
say at this time, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And, usually it's like, okay, so the whole month of January, I'm not drinking. And it's like, well, I mean, why? Why are you not drinking? I mean, what are you planning on not being a drinker for the rest of your life? Just
right.
Is there a problem? Do you need to talk to somebody that, if you have to drink so often? It just, for me, it doesn't quite make sense when people try to be so rigid around what they're doing and how they're going to live their life. It's just choose, it's actually much easier, which, as we dive into this today, people will realize it's much easier than most people are making it on themselves.
That's a great thought. Okay, so I'm gonna confess. I literally do have a bottle of bourbon that I'm saving, and I'm not drinking it. And I'm like, you know what? I want to do that as like, and I think there's nothing wrong with that per se. Saving it for like a celebration of, hey, look, in other words, you're not talking necessarily about achievement as much as progress. That we want to be continually making progress. It is good to celebrate the achievement when you get to a certain point, but that doesn't mean progress doesn't continue moving forward. It's a lifestyle shift. It's not a quick fix shift of I'm doing this for 3 months and then I'm done.
Yes. And here, and this is why I think what you're doing is healthy comparatively to what others will do. And here's what I mean by that. So you've got this nice bottle of whiskey or scotch. Would you say it was bourbon?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got this bottle and you're reserving it for a special occasion. And so what that means is like when that special occasion comes, you are going to be present to what you're doing. You've thought about this as something you're excited about. You're going to, enjoy that moment. What most people do is they operate based on emotion. So they operate based on something great happens and they want to celebrate, or something really bad happens and they want to comfort themselves. Unfortunately, what most of us do is the same exact thing. If we want to comfort ourselves, we eat ice cream. If we want to celebrate, we eat ice cream. So it's not a mindful way to celebrate. Right. And it's not a mindful way to help ourselves in our time of depression or need, because let's be honest, if we're struggling with our weight and we dive into a jug of Haagen-Dazs, we usually feel worse, even though in the moment we feel better. An hour later, or maybe the next morning, depending on how your body digests it, you feel worse emotionally and physically. So how are you helping yourself? How are you truly comforting yourself? Or are you just making things harder on you if your goal is to lose weight or feel good? Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I love how you say we do that to celebrate as well as to, comfort ourselves, because especially with knowing my audience, a lot of them are, let's put it this way. They're stay at home, entrepreneur types and or parents and or they are wearing many hats. And the thing about wearing many hats is there are much more, ups and downs. And so you can go either one of those places, the celebrating or the, I got to numb myself out because it was a bad day places. And still, you can make wrong choices in both accounts.
Oh, I mean, yeah. And the thing is that as an entrepreneur, because I'm the same thing, even though my entrepreneurial endeavors are around health and fitness, I struggle from all those same things. For me to pull myself away from my desk, at 11 o'clock at night is a difficult thing. For me to actually stand up in the middle of creating an email sequence is a difficult thing, because I feel like I'm in a zone or whatever it is, and I'll forget to eat. I'll just be hyped up on caffeine for X amount of hours. I won't work out because I'm too slammed. I go through all of those same problems. The only thing is that I understand and I know how to get myself out of them because I've spent basically the last 10 to 15 years figuring out how that works for me. How do I sidestep those things and how do I take care of myself? And it's small little habits that really do save most people, but they don't even know how to get started. They feel like it's overwhelming and they keep listening to, like news media where it's like, this is the healthiest food you should eat. Everybody should be eating this food every single day. And then they think, and then you hear other stuff like, don't eat this, don't eat that. And people get so overwhelmed, so confused. It's that information overload and they don't even know where to start.
Yeah, it's what's the latest superfood today?
Right, exactly. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Nobody cares. In reality, there's like, I don't know, a small subset of society who really gives a crap about whole food, about superfoods. Like there's just and how it's going to help them. It's for the average person, they couldn't care less. And I don't think they should. I think that they should care just as much as they need to in order to feel good, be healthy, and look good. Just as much as they need to. It's like bare minimum. That's, because let's be honest, you don't want to become a health freak. You don't want to become a fitness freak. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like you don't need to be that person in order to be healthy. You just need to be as healthy as you can be. And that's fine. Right. Everybody's different.
Yeah. And I think even what's funny is even myself and a number of people out there could look at the picture that you first were disgusted with. And man, we'd love to even just get back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And everybody's got, we all, I think somewhat, because of society and all the media and everything that we see, all these pictures of people that we see, we all have a little bit of body dysmorphia and we harp on very specific parts of our body. If only this was different, if only my hips look better, if I didn't have this tire, if I didn't have this blemishes on my face, whatever. We get so wrapped up in all of that. But we have to understand that chances are most other people that are seeing us from the outside that don't even know those are our own personal insecurities, they don't know. They don't care. They don't judge us for it. It's only in our own personal minds. So you're the one setting up that anxiety. You're the one setting yourself up for failure. Nobody else, really.
Taking a look at the appearance angle, that can be somewhat defeating and, it can be a letdown. And can play into psychologically feeling tired all the time. But then also physically, you probably are tired all the time when you're not healthy. And then that can feel defeating to the point where you're like, I have all these different roles. I have my work. I have my family. I've got relationships. I've got, maybe a side hustle of some sort. And all of those things, you can feel like, I don't know how I'm supposed to, one, feel less tired to put more effort in on my health, or two, find more time.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to use you, Eric, as like kind of an example because
do it. I'm the guinea pig.
All right. So I imagine that because you probably fit into the category of 90% of people, you'd like to lose some weight. Am I right?
I'm raising my hand. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you'd like to lose some weight. Now, I would also, as an entrepreneur, I would like a steady stream of leads on a consistent basis. I would like a high-end clientele to consistently come my way. I'd like to be making at least a few $100,000 a year on just my online business, nothing else. And I'd also like to, have a lifestyle where I don't feel chained to my computer, right? Is that something that you might want as well?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, 90% of that's exactly it. And for people that are listening.
For the people that are listening, they would like you, they would like to lose weight. They would like to look healthy, look fit. They would like to feel more confident in their body. They would all the things that are tied into our own personal health and self-image. We want all of those things to be lined up so we feel good, right? And the same thing, if we looked at juxtaposition of our business, we want all of those same things. Now, you know and understand business. I'm sure that you feel like you do more so than maybe you feel like you do about health. Maybe emotionally, there's a disconnect. So here's what I mean by that. So for the average entrepreneur, we understand that we cannot become overnight successes, right? We cannot have immediately with a flip of a switch, the perfect funnel built. We can't have it immediately built. The social media to a certain level. We don't get good at podcasting. Probably for the first 50 to 100 episodes, we probably aren't really that good at delivering our message, understanding what we're saying. There are all these different aspects of becoming a really successful entrepreneur. Not just that, managing clients, all these different pieces of the puzzle, right? So if I was to say within 2 months, 3 months, you were going to be an unbelievably successful entrepreneur making $300,000 annually, and you basically have zero experience or minimal experience in online marketing and online, basically everything online business.
Sure.
Would that be realistic?
Not at all. No.
Right. It's going to take how long? What do you think?
Oh, gosh. So I would say, let's see. So the original was what, 3 months, you said?
Yeah.
I'm going to say at least a year, maybe 2.
At least a year, maybe 2, to where you start to feel like you have some serious momentum. You've built up the business contacts. You're making a certain amount of money where maybe you can even quit your job, and you're feeling like confident about your knowledge within the online world. Like you understand this, and you don't feel like you're playing catch up all the time. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is health any different?
People think we can do it quickly and easily by shortcuts.
Right. We all sign up for P90X. We all sign up for Jenny Craig. We all sign up for Weight Watchers. That's what my mom did. Every time she was overweight as a kid, she would sign up, not her as a kid, but me when I was a kid watching her. She would go to Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers, and she'd go on her weekly check-ins. She would buy their junk food that they sell that's all processed and full of sodium, and that's what she would do until she reached the goal she wanted to reach. And then she would stick with it for maybe another month or so, and then she'd stop doing it, go back to exactly what she was doing, and within a few months she was back to where she started. And she didn't learn anything. That's not to mean that nobody can help anybody, right? That's not what we're saying, because it depends on who you hire, right? So if you're hiring somebody to help you build a funnel, and it's one of these do it for you funnels, or they build your website or anything like that, and you don't have any understanding of how the funnel works, how your website works, and how to manage that stuff from the inside for yourself, well, you're going to have a real hard time continuing to grow your business unless you outsource all the time, everything, all the time. Because wealthy people can get healthy because they outsource. They hire trainers, they hire nutritionists, they hire chefs. They basically just have somebody to run their life. And it's great when you have that kind of financial backing. The same for business. If I had all the money in the world, you bet my business would be a lot further along than it is right now, because I just invest in the best coaches. I'd invest in the best people, right? But the reality is that we don't. Most of us don't, right? We're not part of that 1% where we can just throw money at things. So we have to put the time in. We have to learn. We have to understand. We have to see where our weaknesses are, where our strengths are. And that is how we need to learn how to be healthy. We need to understand that we didn't learn this junk when we were kids. Our parents didn't teach us this. If they did, we'd be in a different place right now. The same thing with our online business. My parents were not entrepreneurs. Some kids, you meet those people where their parents are very high-end entrepreneurs. They understand business. They have financial backing. And all of a sudden, they seem like they're overnight sensations because, well, they have a lifetime of having those people talking in their ear to help them understand how that works.
Yeah.
And the same thing with healthy parents. If you have a healthy parent, you set your kid up so well for being healthy and on their own. You can't even comprehend it, because most of us have never had it. It's like to watch those people walk around in the world who don't worry about like what they're eating, because they completely understand what works for their body. They don't worry about whether or not they should work out because they do something physical all the time. They seem like an anomaly in our world. But it's only because generationally that stuff was never passed down from us. It was never taught to us.
If that's the case, how do we start to make a shift towards putting in the time, especially when we feel like we don't have it?
Right. So, well, okay, first of all, just like anything else, you need to make time. You need to make it a priority. If it's something that's important to you, if your weight loss is important to you, instead of waiting for the doctor to tell you have diabetes or that you have some kind of you're at risk of something. And I hate to say the words because it's not necessarily exactly this, but you need to hit some kind of rock bottom. You need to like have that come to Jesus moment where it's like, if I don't do this now, 10 years will go by and I don't know if I'll still care, or I don't know where I'll be if I'll be too far gone. So the number one thing is you have to decide to make this some kind of priority for you. And the way to do that is to come up with the reason why you want to do it, and then coming up with how you're going to do it. The how is usually the thing that most people focus on without understanding their why, which is one of the reasons why they lose their way after a couple of months or a couple of years. They have to know why they're doing it, right? And they have to be, and the reason, honestly, has to come down to, it has to be internal. It cannot be external. It can't be because my wife wants me to. It can't be because the doctor told me to. It can't be because people are making fun of me or people look at me and they judge me and I don't want people to judge me. It has to be internal. It has to be something that's rooted. And I can't tell you what that is. It might be something like I want to take care of myself. I want to love myself the way that makes me feel like I am being nurtured on a consistent basis. And however it comes and to fruition for some people, it's going to be different because we all have different pasts. But after that, once you've come up with your why, then you need to seek out the people that speak to you, right? When we listen to people that are marketing, there are certain phases of our business in which people start to make sense. It's all noise, right, for a long time. But then we get stuck with a certain place where maybe we've built a funnel and our funnel is junk, and we now need some guidance because we've like kind of gotten as far as we can on our own. And that at that point, you need to start listening and reaching out and looking for people. So maybe for the people listening right now, when they're hearing me, they're like, yes, I agree with Rob. Yes, I agree with Rob. Yes, I agree with Rob. He's speaking the way that makes sense to me because I'm right now in the same exact place as them, right? You've heard that term, meet them where they're at, right? Meet them where they are. That's where I try to talk to people, and that's the people who are going to hear me, and they're going to resonate with that. The important thing is that you really do want to find those people that inspire you, right? And for the average person, that might feel really far away, right? So you might need to find a community of people that are doing what you want to do. Maybe it's find some friends that are trying to do what you want to do. And you have to start implementing small changes into your life, right? We have in my SkyFit challenge that we do, it's a community-based thing, but we only have 4 habits that we ask people to execute on that are necessary habits to basically living a healthy lifestyle. Only 4. And the habits are this: drink 80 to 100 ounces of water a day. And the reason behind that is like sometimes we have to take away, but a lot of times we just have to add to our lives in order to really start making room for the things or pushing out the things that don't necessarily help us, right? So if you're drinking 80 to 100 ounces of water a day, you're going to be drinking less carbonated drinks or like sodas and sweet drinks. You're going to be drinking less coffee. You're going to be drinking less of all the other stuff. And the reality of it is that water is probably the best thing we can put into our bodies. So if we up it to 80 to 100 ounces, it creates space. It pushes some things out. The next thing on the list after water is vegetables. We know that vegetables are healthy for us, no matter what you do and how you try to swing that argument. We know that green leafy vegetables are the best way for us to get vitamins and minerals into our body, right? We just know this, and it's much better than French. I'm not talking about French fries or like corn on the cob. I'm talking about like green leafy vegetables, right? Incorporating those into a daily basis. Next on the list is doing something physical every day. I have clients that I work with that are over 300 pounds, and I don't put them into a crazy workout regimen. I have the conversation. I say, how much time can you put in? And the minimum I ask for is 20 minutes. Can you squeeze out 20 minutes? I think, Eric, for most people, do you think 20 minutes is that much to ask?
It's not. And even if though I know there's an importance to sleep, just get up 20 minutes earlier.
Exactly. Like just go to bed 20 minutes earlier and wake up 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
And there you go. And there's a little trick too that I had somebody on my show one time told me about in terms of building habits. And I see that you have David Allen. You had David Allen on a recent episode. He's fantastic. I've had him on my show too, because the importance of really obviously getting things done, but organizing your life is so important. And one of the things that another podcast guest that I had on said was before you go to bed, get your morning ready. So make the coffee, have it set to go off when you get up in the morning. Have your sneakers and your workout clothes or your gym or maybe your walking clothes, whatever you're going to use, have them set at the end of the bed. So all you have to do is just put them on. So you're ready to go. And in fact, you don't have to change your shirt. Just wear the same shirt. You could just maybe wear your sweatpants to bed or underwear to bed, slip your sweatpants on and take a walk. And that's all you need to do in order to build that momentum for yourself. Because if you spend every single morning for 30 days straight taking a walk for 20 minutes, there's a habit there. There's a habit there that's going to feel, so if you on the 31st day don't do it, it's going to feel weird that you didn't. So if you can try to build that momentum, it doesn't have to be hit the gym for an hour and a half. It doesn't have to be crush yourself. It just has to be a habit that you can execute on a daily basis. So we have in our challenge, we have specifically workouts that are a challenge, but we have people in the challenge that are also 300 pounds that are doing the workouts. And because it's not like you have to compete with anybody. The only person you're competing with is yourself. If you're doing it and you're doing your exercises on your own, then they're only 20 minutes, you work as hard as you possibly can. And then next week you do this, you do the same thing and you get better and better and better. And that's how life works. We just keep applying pressure, right? Same thing for business. We just keep applying pressure. We live, we learn, we get better. And then the final thing on the list, so we covered water, we covered vegetables, and we covered your workouts or something physical every day. The last thing on the list is processed food and sugar. And for now, this is the 95% of the population. This is the biggest part of their diet that is setting them back. Not only is it setting them back with their weight loss, that's the easy one, but it's setting them back with their digestion. Most of us don't even know that we have inflammation in our guts. We don't even know that we're not digesting our food properly. When you're eating processed food and sugar on a regular basis, that prevents you from absorbing nutrients. When you're prevented from absorbing nutrients, you're hungry all the time. Because your body's like, I need something. And then you give it junk again, and then it's hungry again in an hour. And it continue on and on and on. But it's absorbing those calories. It's just not absorbing the nutrients. It's just not giving you anything. It's empty calories. It's low nutrient dense foods, right? Processed foods and sugars are things like, obviously we think fast food. Yes, that's an easy one, right? But even cereal or whole wheat bread, or things that we would consider to be healthy or heart healthy according to packaging is not, so if you're eating these low fat foods, these processed, what do they have? They have these processed spinach pastas. You're not eating spinach. You're eating pasta that happens to have some spinach in it. And that's not a vegetable. That's just processed food with a little bit of green. So, if you can eliminate those things or significantly and reduce them and the sugar, right? Most of us are consuming by drinking our sugars in sweet drinks and such. If you can eliminate those or drastically reduce them, you're going to see significant weight loss in almost immediately. And that's just the reality of it for most people. And if that works for you, literally works for you, rinse and repeat all day long. And if it's too hard for you, then that's something that you need to obviously look at, right? It's like, why if I do this, let's say you do this and you just follow those 4 habits for a week or for a month or something like that, and you feel great, because I guarantee you're going to feel great, and you start losing weight, you've lost 10 to 20 pounds in a month, and everything is moving in that direction. You're not starving yourself, because I never said you can't eat X amount of food. I've just said that you can eat as much food as whole foods as you want, just not processed food, which means that you're never hungry. You're just eating real food all the time, and the weight comes off after a month. Why would you want to go back to what you were doing? Then we're talking about a psychological issue.
All of those things, those 4 things that you just mentioned, especially, even going back to finding that why, the internal why, and the community and the inspirational people that you're going to look to, and then going with these 4 things that you listed off. Some of them are swapping out, some of them are fitting them in, but it's not like it's not like you're saying, okay, hours of time per day, you now need to substitute something that you need to get done for these other things that you, quote, want to get done, even though it probably should be a need to get done. Like you said, it's that 20 minutes. Who can't take 20 minutes? It's the other, and I think we can get into this a little bit more, because I know you guys do. When it comes to the eating healthy and eliminating, the processed stuff and drinking. I mean, drinking the water for me, I've got a filter right there on my fridge. I just take my 24-ounce glass bottle over there, and I can fill it up, and I can fill that up, 4 to 5 times in a day. Boom, I'm done. I've got that one done. I can easily get up and I can do the walk. It's the other two, I think, that are the harder ones for me. And that takes a little bit more strategy. And honestly, I'm lucky that my wife is interested in doing this as well, because us both being on the same page and changing the diet of the whole household.
Yes.
And when I say the word diet, I don't mean fad diet. I mean, I don't mean weather, is it raining right now? I mean, climate, long term, how it always is in this one particular place in the world.
Yes. And so you just touched on a lot of really great things. One is your environment, right? You're talking about you and your wife and your household. What does that environment look like? What kind of environment are you creating for yourself in order to basically set yourself up for success? If you walk in that house, if you open your fridge and there's nothing but Jell-O pops and Egg McMuffins, then you're screwed. Because they're just there. You open the cabinets, you got Doritos and potato chips, you're screwed. Every turn for you has to be an easy one. And that's not easy when you don't have an environment built around success. And so one of the things that almost all nutritionists will do, like serious nutritionists, they'll do something called a kitchen clean out, where they will come to your house, they will look, and they'll take you through everything you have in your home. This is something my wife does. Take you through everything you have in your home and go, I want to tell you. So obviously, can we both agree that Doritos are not good for you? And it's like, okay, I agree. Doritos not good to me. So that we go through and they're like, but wait a second, this is not bad. Whole wheat pasta is not bad. And be like, okay, well, let's look at the package. Let's talk about this. And we, you look at the ingredients. Okay, it starts off with bleached white flour. And then it says whole wheat flour. And then it says all these different words that you can't pronounce. There's 17 of them. And then so does this look healthy? Can you identify these things? And it's like, well, no. Well, then why would we eat anything we can't identify? Why would you put anything in your mouth that you don't know what it is? Right? Because we should be able to identify it. And so that's a very good way of building out your environment, right? And then you got to figure out, just like you were talking about a second ago, swapping out what comes in if other things are leaving, right? And generally the gist of it is Whole Foods. And for a lot of people that scares them, because Whole Foods means they have to be able to cook. And God forbid people learn how to cook for themselves. It's like the craziest thing to me. But you're lucky. Your wife is also in the game with you. She cooks. You guys probably both cook. If you're a good match, you guys both cook. You support each other in that. One might be a better cook than the other, but that's okay. You guys are on the same path. Sometimes somebody comes home and goes, "Oh, I'm so exhausted today. Can we just order pizza?" Sure. Yeah, of course. But if that happens 4 or 5 times a week, then there's a problem. But if you are supporting each other, then you are able to basically navigate these waters without any interruption on an 80 to 90% basis. And that's where people start to see success. And then there's, we talk about, you say, this is the bones, then there's the nuts and bolts. And the nuts and bolts would be the environment, but also things like, how do you set yourself up for not being, when you're starving and there's nothing prepped? How do you set yourself up? Well, you make prep part of your thing. I was listening to your episode. Who were you talking to the most? Was it the most recent episode, or was it like 2 episodes ago, where you guys were talking about Hyatt and how he schedules his downtime? Yes. Right. Yeah. Well, you need to do the same thing for your cooking. You need to schedule that stuff. You can't just get home from work and go and just be like, oh, it's 7 o'clock. Or maybe you work at home and you work up until 8 o'clock and you're exhausted and mentally fried. And then you think that you're going to just whip up a souffle. I mean, is that realistic? Right? So maybe on a Sunday night when you have a little more free time, or maybe even in the middle of the day on a Wednesday, you've carved out an hour and a half to bust out maybe some kind of buffalo chicken casserole, or you spend time making a chili that's going to save you in those times of need, right? So the thing is that a person that's really good at being healthy is also organized at business, because they understand they're the same thing.
You have touched on already about 3 different productivity tips or tricks that people should be able to identify with. And number 1 is the saying no to things that we have to, in order to get the things that we want and be able to say yes to some things, we have to say no to other things. And that's the kind of the kitchen clean out. Then when you're looking at the box, like I hear you saying that and I'm thinking about how often we let all these little things just drop in and waste away our time. And it's like, you have to do a time audit to say, wait, where am I spending my time? So it's the exact same thing there with like, what are not just the calories, but the lack of nutrients that I'm letting into my body, in that instance. And then what was the other one you just said? Oh, so then getting into having a strategy and having people on board and creating meal plans, being able to have things that are tried and true, trusted. Okay, that's my go-to. And I've got that. And it's, say there isn't anything prepared. Well, hopefully, you don't get to that point. But if you do, you've at least got something that you can grab in the house that's healthy, like say some almonds or something like that,
Exactly.
And having, batch processed stuff, sitting down and doing a bunch of cooking for the week kind of a thing,
Yep. Yeah. It's interesting. I mentioned this in an email to you about a woman named Elizabeth Saunders. She was a podcast guest of mine years ago. And she wrote a book called 3 Secrets to Effective Time Management. Right. And I interviewed her before I interviewed David Allen. It was right around the same time. I was just like, I want time productivity people who like to talk about time management. Right. So I had her on the show. And one of the things she talked about was a study that I think it was either Harvard or Princeton, is these high level schools, right? High functioning, really academically excelling kids. And they basically, what they did is they took in these kids who had way too much on their plates, and they broke down everything that these kids wanted to do, the amount of like what they wanted to do, extracurricular activities, they're studying, all of this. And when they broke it down for the kids and they put it down in a list and they said, look, here's how many hours are in the day. Here's what you want to do and what you're trying to do. And the reality of it is there's just not enough time in a day. And they said to the kids, you have to make room. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about this. You have to make room. If I have a schedule, like today, I have a launch coming out on Monday. I have normally a meeting on Thursday mornings. I have a bunch of other things that I have on my plate, but I had to make room today to finish my email sequence, my messenger bot sequence, to do a Facebook Live this morning, because I know that those are going to be the things that need to get done before Monday when the challenge actually starts. But the reality of it is that I needed to make room because I'm not superhuman. I can't be 2 places at once. I'm not like a 4-person business. It's me. My wife does work with me, but she doesn't do any of the business stuff. She is on the podcast with me. She's a holistic nutrition counselor. She works with clients. But the thing is that she doesn't do the business stuff. So I know that I have to make room, and that's a conscious choice. I make a list of everything that needs to get done. And then I look at my schedule. I go, is this possible? And then if I choose to not accept that as reality, right? If I look at what I want and I look at my schedule and it doesn't line up, then I'm not playing in reality. I'm just not. I'm just playing in this fantasy world that I am superhuman and that I could do everything all the time, all at once. And that's not reality. And so what Elizabeth did is she interviewed these people, she didn't, but she, was talking about this study. These kids had a complete false sense of reality. They did not accept the fact that they couldn't do all of it. Maybe that's the telling part of a high functioning person, in that they're going to not accept their own limitations. But the reality of it is that what that does set up is a psychologically damaged person down the line, because they are always going to feel like they're not going to get it all in. They're not going to be able to succeed because something is going to fall through the cracks, and eventually they will emotionally or physically break. And that is what happens to most of us in the entrepreneurial world. We think that we can do it. And then our body either says we're shutting the business down for a minute. You get sick for a week or so, and then you think to yourself, "Oh man, I'm so sick. I have no time to be sick." And then you get sick, and then you realize, wow, you really didn't miss anything. That it was totally fine. You're like, "Oh, that getting sick was like the best thing that ever happened to me because now I feel so much better."
Yes.
But because it was self-inflicted. All of that is self-inflicted. So if you are able to time manage and see the reality of what your limitations are, you are so far ahead of most people. I don't think most people even can gather that when we're so deep in it. And I struggle from this too. I'm not 100%, but like I know that it's one of my weaknesses. It's like it's my kryptonite is thinking I can do everything and get everything done. It's because you know how like you have those 2 hours in the day, 3 hours in the day where you are a rock star, where you're just like you're crushing everything. You're turning out emails. You're responding to things. You're banging out shows, and you feel really good. Your energy levels are spot on. You are laser focused. That's only for a few hours out of the day. Most of the time, we're brain fogged out. We're tired.
Yep.
We've been working our butts off. And the next thing you know, we think we're going to work from like 9 o'clock or to 11 o'clock at night. You know, maybe we have kids and nothing gets done. And in reality, the best thing you could have done for yourself was to put your head on the pillow and take a nap or go to bed and wake up fresh the next day. But we sometimes refuse to do that for ourselves.
I'll be honest. Last night, this has been a hard week. Last night, I was in my bed at 9 p.m. and asleep 15, 20 minutes later.
Good for you. And your body was just like, yep, I'm all in on this.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I have to be in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock on a regular basis because I normally wake up at 4:30 because I train in Los Angeles 3 days a week with clients at 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
But I don't break that 4:30 wake up time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So like this morning, we're talking on a Thursday, I was up, my alarm goes off at 4:30. And so I try to keep that and maintain that. So my normal sleep time is usually the same, and my normal wake up time is normally the same. I try not to fluctuate that, so I don't have breaks. I learned that from Craig Ballantyne.
So say somebody identifies with, okay, you know what? Those 4 things you said, that sounds great. I think I may have already found my why, or I think I can sit down and I can figure it out. And I've got people that I'm connected with who are similar to me where, maybe they're in a mastermind group or something like that. We've all talked about it a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And we've made progress. We have in the past, but I want to kind of flip the switch and move forward doing things completely different from now on. And I think one of the things is like you were just talking about, maybe we've not been realistic with ourselves and we need to eliminate some things. I mean, we need to say no to some things in the past we've already said yes to, and not just do a kitchen clean out, but a life clean out of something. We need to reassess our commitments.
I think that's a great idea. I think most of us are spending way too much time on Facebook, on Instagram, checking to see if somebody messaged us and then just digging around for a couple of minutes until a notification pops up when we like feel really good about it. And it's just like, oh, it's just like a notification from the Late Show. And they got a new video that just popped up. I couldn't care less. But that's what we do to ourselves. So if we were able to, carve out those things or get rid of those things that do eat up most of our day, which we don't necessarily believe that we all think, here's the funny thing. We all think that we are unbelievably productive and that we're working all the time. This is what most of us think. And the reality of it is that just like you were talking about, Hyatt, like if you were scheduling in rest times and you weren't eating those rest times up with junk, like jumping on social media or sending text messages or responding to emails, and you were just literally spending those times getting some rest, closing your eyes, maybe listening to a meditation, and then coming back in, you would be so much more productive. Also making time for food, you're making time for exercise, you're making time for, the things that you want. Whatever it is, your priority might be something else. Your exercise might be going surfing. It's like, but you got to carve that stuff out. It might be going for a hike with your wife. So you have to find that time. It might be going, spending time with your wife. Your wife might need to be placed in the schedule as well. With my wife, she's like, because we're having a baby in August, and she's like, we have these birthing exercises that we're supposed to do together. And she comes home and she's like, hey, could we do it right now? And I'm right in the middle of things. And I'm like, babe, we have to schedule this stuff. It's not that I don't want to do this with you, but it's like, it's such an interruption in my day. Look at my schedule. It's all tightly packed. And I'm very specific about what I'm doing and when throughout the day. So I will make time for you. Just tell me when you can do it. And I have to shift some things around. And that's the reality of it. And, unless you're, you again, realize, like you said before, realize those limitations, you're going to really be pushing up against a lot of things. You're going to constantly feel like you're behind the 8 ball. And that's not a way to live your life. And the same thing, it's business or it's or health. It's always the same thing.
Well, one, congratulations on the pregnancy.
Oh, thanks, man. We're having a girl.
Very cool. I've got a girl and I've got a boy. So
congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for on number 2. So you did it perfectly.
Yes.
You did it perfectly. Well done.
And it sounds like, I mean, really, it sounds like what we're aiming at here is, and I think this is, let me put it this way. I might be saying something where it's like, okay, not having a realistic expectation, but you correct me if I'm wrong. Say we get stuff in order. Say we've made lifestyle shift when it comes to our health and we're moving forward. And so we're making progress and in fact, we do make progress and we get so much further down the line. But to assume that then things will be perfect is just completely misleading and unrealistic. I mean, there are seasons in life where, something's going to change and you then have to say yes to something you really don't want to have to say yes to. But, for even maybe just a limited time, you have to say yes to it and then it'll go away again and you've got to make an adjustment. Or we get into that mode where, in other words, how do we future proof not getting back into the habit of celebrating the wrong way or, consoling ourselves the wrong way when it comes to food or other poor decisions?
Well, so you're making a leap. Here's where the fault is in your logic. Yeah. Well, here's the fault in your logic. It's like, okay, so let's do it. And I love doing this because this is one of the reasons why I like talking to entrepreneurs, because it's tougher for you in terms of the health and not just you, but I think for most people that are entrepreneurs. Okay, let's talk about, let's pretend your business is, you've been building it for the last 5 or 10 years and you're making, a couple $100,000 a year and it's successful, right? What are the chances it's going to go right back to the beginning? Like literally you're going to have to start over.
That's pretty doubtful. I mean,
right.
Again, it's going to be let me put it this way. It's way easier to get back to where you used to be at the very start. Like it's almost like sledding, like it's uphill a lot of the time to get to where you want to get to. And then to come back down, all you got to just do is turn around and sit back down on the sled because it's easy for us to.
No, but you're talking about your weight loss, right?
True. Yes.
Okay. So, but this is where the problem is that your ascent up that hill is too drastic, too fast, not mindful. You're not building a lifestyle. You're only aiming for the one target, which is the weight loss. And so when you then turn around and you sit, you take a break, you slide right back down. That's a product of the fact that you were only focusing on the weight loss. You weren't focusing on building all the other things in your lifestyle that are going to make your life a lot easier. So like you can take a break sometimes, right? Now let's say you have a habit of working out every single day. You have a habit of eating 3 to 4 vegetables every single day. You have a habit of drinking your water every day. You have a habit of not eating processed food, only eating whole foods. And then you go for a week on vacation, right? Well, do you have to give up all of the habits? Do you have to literally throw your lifestyle out the window in order to go to Disneyland for a week?
No.
The reality, no, right, exactly. So maybe you don't get to do your workout every day, and maybe you don't get to only eat whole foods. But you still get to do you still get to have your vegetables. You still get to drink your water. You still get to do, one of like 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 4 things. That's not a sit down, slide back. That's a take a knee and maybe I slide back a couple feet.
Right. And then you get right back.
And then you get back home and you go back to what you were doing and then you keep climbing.
Right.
But you're assuming that this is what people do. This is why weight loss diets like Jenny Craig and all that crap. This is why all these people fail, is because they are they're sprinting to the finish line, and they think the finish line is the scale. The finish line is not the scale. The finish line is you on a gurney with a tag on your toe. That's the finish line. You have to get there, right? And the goal is to make that finish line as far away as possible. So you want to continue to run that race, but it's a turtle race, not a rabbit race, right? So you want to ease back. So when a turtle stops, he just stops in his tracks and he pulls his head and pulls his feet and he's good there. He's protected. But if a rabbit goes out and if he stops, he's a sitting duck in the middle of that field. That's what you want to do. That's the game plan for you. It's the same for your business. If you go fast and furious, if you hire somebody to build all your funnels, if you hire somebody to do all the work for you, if you hire somebody to basically, get you set up and then you're on your own, you're going to backslide. You're going to backslide fast But if you learn how to do all those things, right? You sign up for a program that's like, 2 or 3 months long that teaches you how to do it the right way. You've learned it. You're good. And then do you need refresher courses? Sure you do. Of course you do. You're not a genius. You're not that brain is not a steel trap. You need refreshers. You need to learn. Maybe something in there didn't work exactly right for you. So you need to talk to other people, and you need to try different things and be a part of a community. How many online communities are you part of? Different Facebook groups that you're part of that you ask questions in. This is how we learn. This is how we grow. The biggest mistake we can think is that we're either winning or we're losing. We're not winning or losing. We're winning or learning. There is no losing. You have to keep that in mind throughout the process. Otherwise, you're screwed, man. I mean, not you personally, but you listening, you're screwed. If you think that it's about getting to the finish line and once I'm there, I can rest, then you're playing the wrong game.
So I'm thinking back to the why, and this being so directly connected to the mental shift of it's not a short game that I'm playing anymore.
Right. It can't be.
Yeah.
It can't be. And if it is, that's fine. It just means that your why's not strong enough. It means maybe you just haven't been exposed to the right person. Maybe I'm the right person to put it in a way that you finally understand and go, oh, I see. This is my life for the last 20 years. I've been running up that hill so fast. Every time I sat down, I slid right back to where I was and even further, because the higher you go on that hill, right? Nice icy hill, higher you are, when you fall, you slide further back than where you started every time. Because even if you lose 40, 50, 100 pounds and you got there super fast and you were just sprinting up, you fall down, you slide way past where you were the last time. And now you got 150 to go. Mm-hmm. Right? But if you had just taken your time, taken one step at a time, build one habit at a time, lock that in. Don't look at it as like I have to reach this goal. One of the clients that I have, and this is a struggle. He's over 300 pounds, and he says to me, he goes, Rob, I can't feel successful at this unless I get under 300. And I go, you're never going to make it. And he's like, he got mad at me, and I'm like, you're never going to make it, man. You're never going to succeed at this. Because unless you are willing to accept yourself as healthy right now in this moment, you will never be healthy, because that line will always move. That 300-pound line is going to move down to 250. That 250 line is going to move down to 200. And then you're going to be nitpicking until the end. You're not going to be happy ever. You need to, and this is life, right? This is, we know this. We know that we can't be happy if we're focusing on the future or focusing on the past. The only time we can be happy is if we're focusing on the present moment. And so the same thing applies. It's all across every single thing that you want out of your life. It all applies to, if you're able to focus now on the moment, you're happy with where you are, because where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be, then you could be happy. But if it's focused on a line somewhere else down the line, a couple of days from now or a month from now or whatever, we're wishing time away, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it. And it's one of those things where I look somebody in the eye and I just feel really bad. And it's almost like those puppy dog eyes that I'm just like, sorry, man, you're not going to make it.
Now, and I need you to help me craft the right words to make the distinction between the problem with looking at that 300 mark, that line, and the difference between that and setting an actual realistic goal that's further in the future or measured by a certain, measurement.
Yeah. Okay. So there are metrics, right? There's all kinds of metrics. The scale is just one. If you focus on the scale only, then you've only got one metric, right? There's just so much other things to learn. Circumference measurements is another one. Body fat is another one. Lean body mass is another one. Taking pictures of yourself is another one. The way your clothes fit is another one. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. But generally, if you pick one thing, that scale, it's going to play tricks on you, because the more you work out, the more muscle you build. The more the more healthy you eat, or the healthier you eat, the more muscle you build. The transition is not just fat loss, but also muscle building. So sometimes we build muscle and our fat comes down, but we've lost 0 weight. And so for some people, that means on the scale, they failed. And for me, that just means I had a woman who did our SkyFit challenge. I'm not even joking you. I posted a picture in our community, and it was a backside picture. You could see her. She's in her underwear and a bra. And I asked the community before and after, how much weight do you think she lost? And unanimously, people were saying between 10 and 27 pounds. That's basically the weight loss range. She lost 5 pounds. She lost 5 pounds, but she had put on muscle mass. She probably gained about 15 pounds of muscle and lost 5 pounds, or 10 pounds of muscle and lost like 15 pounds of fat. And now that's a 5 pound weight loss. But she looks amazing. It's like two different people. But if you only focus on the one metric. So what do I mean by that in terms of like over 300 pounds and how do you wrap your brain around that? It's not about a diet. It's not about reaching those goals. There are metrics to see whether or not you're moving in the right direction. Sure. But those metrics don't define you. They are not a representation of who you are as a person, meaning you're not a failure if it's not working. It means that your strategy needs to change. Just like if you create a funnel for your business and it doesn't work, maybe it's not the entire funnel that's total junk. It's just the landing page. Or maybe one of your links is slow and it's not necessarily working the right way that it should be. So you have to go through and you have to figure out, now if we're looking at our diet, like what is it that's potentially not working? How do I fix this? How do I fix that? You have to be like the mechanic of your life and you have to basically problem solve. And we get so hung up on good, bad, yes, no, black and white that, no progress is like a death sentence for a lot of people. If you say, okay, I'm Erik, here's my lifestyle. I'm going to eat whole foods. I'm not going to deviate from eating whole foods as much as possible. If I go out to dinner with my wife, I'll have some bread or some whatever. But most of the time we eat at home. I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to drink 80 to 100 ounces of water a day. I'm going to eat my vegetables 2 to 3 times a day, green leafy vegetables. I'm not talking about starchy vegetables, so I get my vitamins, my minerals. I'm getting really good nutrients in my body. And I'm going to do something physical every single day for 20 minutes. No, that's my day to day where, that's like my normal life. If I go away or if something comes up, then I can't do all of those things. I'm not going to get down on myself, but that's my normal day to day. I guarantee you the scale's going to start moving in the direction that you want it to. It might not go in the direction at the rate at which you want it to.
Right.
But it's going to go that way. Will you hit plateaus? Sure you will. Your body's adjusting. Maybe you had like a bad weekend or whatever it is, but you are going to continue to make progress. If you don't make progress, then you're a mechanic. You figure out, what do I do? If you are continually making progress and you're doing fantastic, and maybe you lost like 30, 40, 50 pounds, and then you hit a plateau, and then you start panicking because you think you need to be a mechanic. The fact is that maybe it's just where your body needs to be for this moment. Right? Maybe it's just like you have to accept that you're still healthy. You have to accept that you're still, a good person, and it doesn't define who you are. And then once you do that, maybe it takes a week or two, maybe it takes a month, and then all of a sudden that plateau kind of goes away and you start losing weight again. But if you panic and then you're like, oh my God, screw this. I got to go keto. I'm going on a low calorie diet. That's it. I'm done with this. No, because then you're not living a lifestyle. You're just trying every single get rich quick scheme. How to make $40,000 in less than a month if you just follow my program. And then you're a sucker for that because you just want money. Right. And you're a sucker for that because you just want weight loss. Right? If we're chasing the money, we're not helping anybody. The goal is to chase. This is actually, I never thought about it like this, but this is actually really good. Like if your goal is happiness and health, then you're good. If your goal is weight loss, you're bad, right? You're not, well, it's not good and bad, but like you're not going to succeed. If my goal in business is to only make money, chances are I'll fail. If my goal in business is to help people, chances are I'll succeed. Who cares at what level of success I have in terms of financial? It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Once it does matter, then I've lost my footing. And we all get mixed up in this. We all think, oh my God, this means because my launch didn't go well. And I suffer from this too. I constantly have to remind myself. I go to therapy. I talk about it on my show. I have to remind myself, like, it doesn't define me as a person if I'm not succeeding at the thing that I'm setting out to succeed at. It doesn't mean that I'm bad or stupid or not good enough. It just means that it's just information, right? We win or we learn. It's just information. How I use that information is one thing. If I let it depress me and get me pissed off and make me unhappy, then that's what it's going to do to me. It's because I let it do that to me. But if I decide to just take the information and go, that doesn't define who I am. That doesn't put a label on me. Then I can make decisions. I'm free to make decisions to do other things to improve. I become the mechanic.
There's a huge psychological shift then, I think, between our head and our heart that we've got to make. And not only that, but then there's still tips and tricks and I don't want to say hacks, but strategies and, just shifts of actions overall, sweeping lifestyle changes that, we need to gradually make, some of them more important than others. And you get into all that in your show and what you do over at your site. I want to, say we're definitely going to have you back on the show. And then number two, I want to point everybody over to where you're doing all that so people can work on this stuff in between now and the next time.
So if they're interested in just checking out the website, we're at openskyfitness.com. The podcast is also called Open Sky Fitness Podcast. They can find it there. If they're looking for, and this is the thing, it's going to feel like this is where I'm better as being a coach than being a salesman, right? I have something called the SkyFit Challenge. It's an 8-week program. It's all those habits that I talked to you guys about. It's all those, it's basically, but it's built within a community. It's built within accountability. The thing that people struggle with is just getting the ball rolling. And I don't want clients for life. I don't want people to be on my programs for life. I want them to just, if they need to stay for 6 months, for a year, that's fine. You feel like you got your footing, then awesome. Then you're on your way. Sometimes like I need a therapist to basically bring me back down to reality. That's what our community does. That's what Devin, my wife, and I do within that community. And that's called the SkyFit Challenge. They can go to skyfitchallenge.com to find out all the info about that. If they join our Open Sky Fitness podcast group on Facebook, we talk about it quite a bit. But that's where we're making the biggest impact, and it's a small community. It's not about the numbers. I'm reminding myself of this all the time. It's not about growing it to being huge, right? Because I can't have as much of an impact. I can't have a personal touch if it's too big. It's really about having the impact on the people and helping people. And because I know that it works. I know that if this resonates with you, which Eric, I think it resonates with you.
It does.
I think for people that are listening, it resonates because it makes sense. It makes sense. Then this might be something that you might want to take a look at. And so that's basically where I spend most of my time and is just helping those people. And I love that stuff. I really do. It was make me feel good at the end of the day, like I did something with myself rather than just make some money.
Yeah. Well, so again, I need to repeat, it did resonate with me. I know that this has resonated with a lot of people that are listening, and there's a lot to continue down this road. And again, I definitely want to have you back on the show to continue talking about this, and just encourage anybody who can't wait for that to head on over and take a look at all of what you just brought up. And I'll link up to all of that in the show notes for this episode. So Rob, it's been awesome talking with you. Thanks for being here.
Eric, thank you so much. This was great.